So first of all, I have to say it's Nancy's birthday, so we all have to wish your sister a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Nancy.
Happy birthday, Nancy.
Thank you.
Linda, wish your sister a happy birthday. And my dumbass said, which one, of course.
So what we got here, we got some siblings here who grew up in Franklin, born in the 30s and 40s. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of facilitate a little discussion on the old days of Franklin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen because I got a little slideshow. These guys have picked out some photos in an old historical book. And we're going to just do a little discussion about Franklin, about their childhood and memories. We'll start with this great picture of these guys when they were little kids.
Ah!
Aw.
My thunder.
So do you guys see that there? You guys all see yourselves?
Yeah.
All right.
Carol's
Cool.
wearing the dress that I made, the jumper and jacket that I made.
Who'd you make that for?
I made it for myself. I don't know why Carol's wearing it.
That's
And this
fantastic.
is Easter.
I love that. That's great.
This is when we all had bouquets at Easter.
Oh wow. Okay, so you would all wear bouquets, just to go to church.
Yes, we're on our way to church.
How old is Phil there?
Probably around 6.
That's fantastic. So
There in the corner, he's about 2.
yeah, in the corner picture, I love that. That's a great smile, Uncle Phil. That's classic.
It is a great.
That's great. So these guys grew up in Franklin, right up the street from here. This is Eaton Funeral Home, like very, very famous, iconic building in town. And Booch, did you have a quick story on your family and the Eaton Funeral Home?
What I remember is our grandfather was from Cincinnati and he did horseshoe hoofing or whatever. He evidently made a lot of money, so he had a country home that he bought, which is this Eaton Funeral Home now. And his 3 daughters were born there. And the oldest was Eliza, who is our grandmother. And she ended up marrying the local grocer, who was like a foot smaller than she was. And her parents disinherited her. And
Because
then
she married a merchant?
She had twin girls that both died. But then her parents reconciled with her, and then she proceeded to have 3 boys, and our father was the second. Denise was the first, Richard was the second, and James was the third.
And so the craziest thing about this whole story is that your grandmother was born in that house. Is that correct?
Correct. She was born in that house and had her funeral in the same room where she was born.
So she was born as a kid in this house, and then
Yes.
when she died, it was a funeral home, and she had her funeral there.
Yes.
That's the craziest story.
Nancy, Phil, do you want to correct anything?
That was on my list, and you recited it almost song and verse. It was George DeNice, right?
Yes.
One last thing. Do you both know that house was torn down recently?
No.
Oh,
Oh, really?
what?
Yep.
Oh.
I thought it looked like it was still in great shape.
Oh, it is.
What did they put in place of it?
Grass.
Oh, jeez.
It's a
That's
vacant lot
A
now.
big apartment complex there.
Vacant lot.
Wow. Vacant lot.
I called up Vincent Bryant, and he said he'd seen it when they came up to visit his parents' grave. They lived exactly next door to it on High Street.
That is hard for me to wrap my brain around.
Yeah, me too.
On to the next slide here. Just wanted to lead off by saying that we got all these images from Images of America. And you guys all, I was so happy to hear this. You all already had the same book that Mom had. And these books are unbelievable. I mean, they have over 80,000 of these books. They're unbelievable. That's where we're getting these pictures in case anyone was wondering. But so what we're going to do is we're going to give you guys a minute or two to kind of talk about these. And we're going to just kind of go in order, Mom, Nancy, Phil, Mom, Nancy, Phil. And let's
thought-
start. Let's
Go
start
ahead.
with this one here. George Rossman, Mom. You have handwritten here something like he fell off his horse and died in about 1932. That is so.
That's I knew
Yeah,
that too.
This is the only picture that I think we have, but that's the story that I think it was the year after, let me see, Mom and Dad got married in 33.
Better be before 35.
And he was killed the next year. Nancy loved horses, and so they leased horses for her at in Middletown, I think it was. And I think it was probably very hard for my father to let her ride horses, but he did.
Oh, because his father passed away by falling off a horse.
Right.
Wow.
No,
And one thing I don't know, and Phil, you have all the dishes from the honeymoon. The story is that they honeymooned in Europe, and that's where she bought all the china. But how would they get over? He must have been quite wealthy, and they must have gone over on a ship. I really don't know.
I think you're right. And it's amazing. Everything you have said so far is exactly, almost word for word, what I remember. And then I thought, well, maybe Carol told me all this.
That's really wild.
Yeah, and Mom said that she got the Haviland in England on their honeymoon, but
Right.
it's made in France. It's all neatly packaged up and sitting down here.
So that's your that's your
Grandfather.
your
His
grandfather.
grandfather.
It's your
Grandpa.
great grandfather.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
I've told numerous people, probably you too, and it's hard for them, hard for me to get my head around this. Our grandfather was born 2 years before the Civil War started.
Oh, that is right. Because he
He was
died in
born in 1858.
Wow. That is hard to believe that your grandfather was born before. He has memories of the Civil War. He had memories of the Civil War.
He was, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
was
was-
probably 7 or 8 years old when it finished up. But yeah, that's unbelievable. That's amazing. Wow.
How old was your grandfather, Phil, when your father was born?
He was 44 and Dad was 42.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kept the tradition up
He was
going to
42
45.
and
I upped it a year.
I kept that tradition alive. I was in my 40s.
Good boy.
There you go. And Britt really kept the tradition alive. All right. So Nancy has a twofer here. It's the same house, but in different decades. But why don't you tell us, Nancy, about this house and why it made you number one on your list here?
Well, as you can see, it's an Empire style home. And it's hard to see at first how that could be the same house. But it was painted by a later family. And I think that family was the Woolley family, as it says, underlined. And
Oh,
she's riding a little pony. There was no shrubbery around the first floor or the basement floor. So it's supposed to have shown off that zippy painting and architecture. Can you show the other half? That's the same house and it's much lighter. Now they have a goat. So I thought that was interesting. One had a child on a pony and then they had a child on the goat.
I'm looking at that. I'm guessing I'm on the suspension bridge looking west. And boy, I don't know what made this pop into my head. Somebody we know lived in an apartment in there. Was it Virginia
Oh.
Shimmick?
yes, Virginia Shimmick.
Virginia Shimmick.
How about that? Where'd that come from?
Hi, good for you.
So
Really?
so that beautiful big building got turned into apartments there, right? Are those lions? Are those the lions on the end of
Yeah,
the bridge?
they are the lions.
Oh, I remember those. I remember those.
Well, back
Well, you
up a
should, they're
second.
still there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the lions, Stephen.
Yeah.
The lions you remember are on the current bridge. They were on top of the anchorage of the suspension bridge, which was built by the Roebling Company, which also built Cincinnati's bridge and the Brooklyn Bridge.
The
Wow.
Roeblings, really?
That suspension bridge right there was
Yes,
built by the same people that did the Brooklyn Bridge?
it was built by his company. I doubt seriously if it came to Franklin. But the other thing is they turned the lions around. They face outward from the river now.
Beautiful houses along the river, huh?
Just wanted to say I thought those houses, especially on the west side, they're just beautiful.
Especially on the river.
Yeah, and
But-
most of them are still standing, which is really quite nice.
Hmm.
All right, Phil.
Oh, Lordy.
Slide is
I
the,
didn't know that. I didn't even recognize it. That is the city building when it was on 4th Street. And I wanted to confirm with my sisters, when I first got on Franklin Fire Department, the fire department was in the bottom of that building.
Oh.
And if I remember right, when I was real
Maybe it's in the
young,
fire
the Franklin Library was on the 2nd floor of that building.
I remember
either one of
that.
you remember that?
I do.
Dad, you remember that?
I remember because their cousin, Bev Rossman, I think she volunteered up there. She got some book for me up there.
So it says that it was around until 1973. So, and it said upstairs had an opera house that could seat 600 people.
That was before Phil.
Yeah, really? Okay. But that's really wild, Phil. So that's where you were you were a fireman.
I was a fireman when the fire trucks were in that building. Well, hell's bells, that's a fire truck in front of it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, they were very proud. That's what it says here in the picture.
Oh,
They were
yeah.
very proudly displaying their horse and buggy fire engines.
Well,
And
God
Phil
bless them
saved
for
many, many lives.
So anyone else have any memories of this building, of class
Mm-hmm.
events or anything?
Where was the police department? I thought they were in the same building with the library.
I think they were. Then they built the fire department, police department over there on Old Canal Street.
Right.
So where was this building?
It was on the north
North-
side of 4th Street between Main and River.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I remember. The library was on 4th Street.
Exactly.
Upstairs, right?
Right.
Yep. So that was there for a long, long time.
And then the police department was on the other, as you walked up the stairs, I thought it was on the right, but maybe not.
Fortunately, I never got in there.
Good for you.
So are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. This is where Mom and Dad were married.
Our great grandfather founded the Presbyterian Church. This is the church.
So did that church look like that when you guys got married?
Yes.
Still does. Boy, I hate to ask this, but can you guys see me?
Yes.
Oh, bummer. I've been I can't see myself. I've been misbehaving up a storm here.
Oh, we're watching you drinking your beers, Uncle Phil. It's fine.
Oh, for crying in line. I tell you, I told Linda I was going to put on a dress shirt and a tie and my suit coat and not any pants and walk away from the camera, and she forbade it.
All right. So Nancy, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a sec so I can see if I can see what's going on with you.
Now you're full. You're in.
Yeah. So I'm going to share my screen
Okay.
and
Oh, there it is. Now it's back.
okay, perfect.
See,
All right. So do you
Phil,
remember, Mom, when you were standing on those stairs getting pictures taken, how you were about the rest of your life? You're just thinking, this great
Yes.
guy by my side. I'm just so excited.
Yes.
Good answer. All right, moving on. This is Nancy's number 2 slide.
What in
Well,
the
I
world?
chose that because that table looks just like the one that was in Mother's house in front of the picture window. It might be a little bit more ornate, but it's definitely the same style.
Was
It
this
is.
in church?
Pardon?
No,
Where is this?
It's the interior of a West Side home.
Does that table look familiar? You guys had does someone have that table in their house right now? Phil or
uh, I don't know where that table got to that Nancy's talking about. We have one very, very similar, but I
It's
don't
not-
think it's the
When
one
you
Mom
and
had.
Skipper sawed through?
That is exactly right.
You saw it?
That's why I know that this is not that one.
Oh,
wait, what happened to the table?
Mom came into the living room and Skipper was sitting in front of that table with a saw just merrily sawing away at one of the legs, and it had that kerf mark in it till the day we did whatever we did with it. I don't know where it got to.
So he was trying to make it shorter?
No, we were like 5, 6.
Oh, okay.
This seemed like a good idea at the time.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's funny.
It was in that awkward time period between where you were old enough that you'd have known better, but you weren't drinking yet, so you had nothing to blame it on.
Hey, this is Phil's second picture.
Now, the one on the bottom, I don't remember that house. Do you?
I don't, you'd think you'd certainly remember it.
I know. That's why I wanted to
I
ask.
don't
And
remember a thing about it.
And then here's after the house that originally stood at 302 was moved to 321 Park. So this house was apparently here, and then they moved it. So obviously
moved
it
the
must
bottom.
have stayed standing, and then this one was built in its stead.
But
And
what's the bottom one say? Isn't it the same? Did they move the bottom? It's something about that
Did
confused
it
me.
say whose house that is?
No, I don't
Okay.
believe so.
Well, it certainly
Weiss?
was destroyed.
Joseph Weiss, a chemist at the paper mill, owned it.
Okay.
They were living there with servants in 1900. In 1906, it was sold to a dentist.
Walter Siegfried.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Oh,
Siegfried-
Dr. C. Oh, wow.
well,
So
I
was
mean,
that his house? Did he
Siegfried
practice
is
in
an
that
old
house?
Franklin name.
A dentist who practiced in downtown
Those
Franklin.
were friends of Mom and Dad.
Yep, Jack
Elma
Siegfried.
Siegfried.
Yeah, and Jack.
Jack and Velma.
And look at that. And that still is that's the Harding. Yeah, that's the Harding Museum now.
Oh, right, the Franklin Historical Society, right? Anything else? Oh, here we go. The Ross
Oh,
grocery store building.
Rossman.
That's you guys. So, Boo, do you want to give it a go? Anyone else? I'm figuring you all probably want to chime in a little bit on this one.
I think he must have been quite wealthy if they went to Europe for their honeymoon. But he had a big grocery, and Mom would get on the phone and dial 21, and then all these groceries would appear at our door. But in the upper 2 levels were 2 apartments that people rented. And he was there for many, many years. And I think Jimmy Rossman took it over.
Yeah,
That's
he
right.
did. He took over the grocery. Did he inherit the whole house?
I think he did.
Were they the landlords of the upper levels?
I know that Kay Rossman was no longer a part owner of that building.
George Rossman owned the whole building.
Okay.
Mhm.
He built it.
So Jimmy must have taken it over, like you said.
He did. And just in my little piece of this, well, 2 things. One, I do not ever remember it being a grocery. I think
Huh.
didn't it close in 52 or something?
That's-
But I have no
No.
I have no recollection of
It was
being
a grocery all while I was growing up.
But on the right-hand side of the building that's shaded there,
Yeah.
After Marty was born, you could still read a badly weathered, painted right on the brick, Rossman Grocery.
Oh,
I
Right.
have a picture of Marty standing under it.
Right.
And
That
it was just shortly after that it was painted over and Subway moved in.
Right.
nice job getting that pic taken, Uncle Phil.
Yeah, now find it.
Richard Rossman had a office right next door to that.
And Bill Shera had an office to the right.
Behind the tree.
Yeah, where the horse is.
Until they blended together.
So your grandfather started this, right?
Yes.
But you never saw him there because he had passed away.
He passed away a year after Mom and Dad got married. So
And
that would
so-
have been in 34.
And so were you guys just totally would run, like just walk in, be able to walk in and get penny candy? And do you have
Back then, my mom never even shopped there. She just got on the phone and called 2-1 and told them what she wanted, and they delivered it to the house.
okay?
Oh yeah, there's a picture of that delivery horse and buggy.
Yes.
That's coming up on the show. Coming up on the
Right.
show.
Well,
Now, and real quickly, just the building just to the left of this one, when Dad started an insurance company, and it was a more contemporary building,
Right.
and that's where he moved in, and he had his name on the front, and somebody once uttered the famous phrase, "I'm going down there in a waste Richard Bossman and white stinker."
Wait, what was that? I didn't follow that
I'm
line.
going to waste Richard Wassman and write Stinker.
Do either of you remember that?
Yes, I do. I confess.
Oops, you
Were
remember
you
that,
the
Mom?
one? Were you the one, or was Carol?
No, I didn't. I said it. I didn't do it.
so anyway, you know that I was in the office around the corner in the building that had become Rossman Shira.
Oh yeah.
You were in the one next door, Dad?
Yeah.
The one to the left of this building.
That's wild. All right, are we ready to move on from that famous pic?
Mm-hmm.
Glad you had that one.
Oh, there we go. Delivery.
Yeah, so Mom was talking about dialing 2-1. And so this is the guy who would come around on the wagon and deliver. So the Rossman Grocery was on the corner of Main and 2nd from 1881 till 1949.
So that fella isn't a relative of the family. He's a delivery boy.
Oh, and look at that, Mom. You could see, look at the number there. It says phones 21, and you kept saying if you called 2-1, you could get the cartridge out.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you
well
see
done,
that?
Carol.
That's pretty cool, Mom. You nailed it with that 2-1. That's nuts. All right, here we go. This is Phil's third one. The
And
Van Horn planing mill. What are your memories of this?
it wasn't the building on the right that made me pick this one. This thing, I can't believe nobody was killed in this thing. This was the hydraulic, the canal that was dug from just above Chautauqua Dam all the way down to Franklin. Skipper and I used to do this on a regular basis. If you walked down First Street Hill, walked over Main Street, and walked over River Street, there was a levee there. If you walked up there, you could walk out on this dam that you're looking, and that's where the paper mills got their power from. And they would use a waterfall, and they had long since quit using it for that, but that existed just like that in the picture when I was young. And if you walked out on the top of that thing, if you look to the away from the picture, the water was clear up to the top, and and then of course the water came out more toward the bottom, and there was always this huge whirlpool. If anybody had fallen in there, they would have just been sucked right down, and that would have been that.
Wow. And you would walk along the ridge? You'd walk along the top of that?
Yes.
Like
I
right here?
cannot
Can you see my mouse moving? My mouse?
Yes, I cannot believe that
Bill, if you walk down Second Street, that's when you, First Street, that's when you would come to this scene.
Mhm,
Is that right?
Yeah,
mhm.
So
I think
if
it was.
you are walking on the bridge, I mean, on the dam, and you look upstream, is it a lake?
No, no, no. It's just a canal that runs poker straight, but I mean, it follows the river. Canal Street ran right down it was at the foot of Jackson Street
Next to the railroad tracks.
on the Main Street side beside it. And it was part of the conservative that was put dams in after the 1913 flood, which all but decimated parts of Franklin. When Uncle Stort came, he was a surveyor for it. Lordy, we have spent way more time on this picture than I thought we would have.
1913, that knocked out the Chautauqua Bridge that used to
Right.
bring the people
Well,
to the river.
that was a footbridge, though.
Yep. On to
Uh-oh.
Booch's fourth.
There's William Skank,
What do you have to say about this, Booch? Mom?
founder of Franklin.
And a relative.
Yes, but I can't follow
You know,
it quite.
The funny thing, you go back to Nana, and Nana was born in Franklin, and Grandma grew up in Middletown. I grew up in Franklin. Just every generation went. This is William Skank. He's from New Jersey, and when he came to Franklin, he sent for his parents and his sisters, and his father founded the Presbyterian Church.
And they are related.
The
Yes.
Skanks are all related.
Are they related to the Knolls?
Yes.
Yeah.
Skank married a Knoll.
Grandma's mother was a Knoll.
Yeah,
Very
Nana.
good.
That's a crypt or whatever you see in a cemetery. Is that in the same cemetery where the rest of your family is?
Yeah, on Wood Hill.
To the left, a short distance away, are the tombstones for Mom and Dad and me.
What are you talking about, Uncle Phil? Your tombstone is there?
Yes, I'm ready.
No.
You knew that, Carol. Everything is prepaid. Everything is picked out. I got a tombstone and it's got my name and birth,
Does it have
And
your
it's-
death date?
and it's sitting there. Instant funeral. Just add Phil.
So you can visit your own grave?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard of anything so crazy.
And I'm right between Mom and Dad.
Did not expect to
Right.
get that detail from this slide. Wow. This is Nancy's number 4 pick.
Yeah, I always liked horses, and this horse was notorious for her wins. Her name
That's
is
not, is that Nightingale?
Nightingale.
Yeah.
Ah, she was
Yeah.
in Kenny's diner, Kenny's, because she brought the whole town down. Everybody bet heavily on her.
Now, it said the bank even went down.
Yep.
Yeah, like one of the banks actually closed, it said on one of those slides.
There was only one bank, I think.
That would have been it.
We didn't have too many banks in Franklin.
I mean, apparently this horse absolutely crushed it for 2 or 3 years. After a winning streak in 1892, many locals were convinced the horse's invincibility and placed huge wagers on her success. Particularly, it was finally defeated. Many citizens suffered losses they couldn't afford. It was even speculated the horse's defeat led to the failure of the village's only bank. All right, so Uncle Phil, here we go with another house that was demolished before you were born. What's your word on this?
Boy, I sure want my sisters to chime in on this because I think that was the schoolhouse that sat on Main Street that
Nana?
Nana taught in.
Right. She taught 3rd grade.
And it's in that school, correct?
Oh, that's cool.
One other thing, the bell from that school is now hanging in front of the post office. You
Yeah,
can
they
walk
tore
up
it
to
down,
it.
but they saved the bell.
Yeah, I saw that and I said, I think my grandmother taught in that school. Do you agree?
Right.
Then that's the one that would have been on Main Street.
It says facing Main Street, built in
Oh.
1848.
You know, of course, we all think of Central School, or at least I do, as being the one on 2nd Street.
Right.
Well, it says here that the old school was demolished and then post office was built in its place. So that would make sense that the bell from this building, which is, you said there was a bell in front of the post office now?
Yes.
So
Oh, that's right.
it's got to be from your grandmother's old schoolhouse. That's pretty cool.
So now, when you come to Franklin, you can go visit that and see the bell that your great-grandmother rang.
So here we go. This is Robert. This is the son of the founder. He served as an ambassador at the House of Representatives until his public life was destroyed by a scandal. Do you guys know what that scandal was all about?
I don't.
He ran off with Nightingale, I think.
No.
The horse?
He probably kissed somebody on the cheek.
We're not proud of that moment.
That's funny, Phil. Distant relative of the Rossmans. All right. So anything else from anybody on this guy, on Robert? Robert Skank? I think I'm saying that right. Finally.
You are saying it correctly.
Nice. I loved this picture. If you look really closely, there's a guy jumping off a high dive. Go ahead, Phil. What do you got?
You do realize that what he's diving off is nothing to do with the bridge. That's a ladder they put up there, and they've got tethered for this event.
Yeah. Yeah, you could sell there like a little diving platform at the top of like a.
Yeah, it's not.
That's got to be a 40-foot platform.
And what gets me, the river's all of about 3 feet deep right there when I was a kid.
Well, they didn't have the levees.
That's another thing about that river. I mean, when we were kids, you stayed out of the river at all costs. I mean, it was so polluted. And now there's people go to the river, they canoe, they ski on it, and ducks are there. We never saw a duck in that river when we were kids. That's the Roebling Bridge, a suspension bridge.
I'm glad to hear that Franklin now has the water's much better. That's good news.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
All right, Uncle Phil, your final slide.
Well, after I was out of high school, I decided to make it my business to visit every bar in Franklin. And this was one that did not have a good reputation when I was growing up. Do you remember it, Stu? It was the Stag Bar at the corner of 2nd and Main.
Yeah, that's Wallace's.
It is.
It is Wallace's.
Okay.
That was the bar that Mom's guy went to prison that she liked so well, and she would visit.
I'd swear you're reading the paper I have in front of me.
What's the paper say?
The bar was so run down and such a money drain. Nobody could make a go of it anymore. Well, this guy bought it, turned the bar, had a little restaurant in it, and it just thrived. Well, they found out he was a bookie. He wasn't just a bookie. He was Pete Rose's bookie.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've been in there. I've been in that place. I remember that.
And Mom's friend got caught up in it.
He wasn't just a friend. I mean, they were also friends from the golf course. So she knew him from up there, and she wrote him when he was in prison.
Oh yeah, she visited him,
And
then she would see him when he got out.
but it was
Your grandmother? I mean, your mom?
yeah.
Yeah, Grandma Kay.
But when things went south for Pete Rose, and there was all that hoopla, and he got into trouble, but he never went to prison. But some of the people that he used did. And I went in there sometime before that guy bought it and turned it into an upscale place. It had a rather unsavory reputation, which I know should have drawn me in there, but it didn't.
That's a good story, Phil. Every bar in town, good stuff. That's really wild that you have memories of Grandma Kay going to visit this guy in prison. That's nuts.
I love it when somebody confirms a wild ass story.
I asked you all to pick 5 pictures out of this book to talk about. You all chose 5 different pictures, which is just, I really can't believe that. Hey, Phil, just settle down now. So
Well, I'm glad that I found that out.
keeps forgetting he's on camera. No, a couple of you mentioned for your backups in case there were duplicates. You talked about Chautauqua, and so I put in 2 pictures of my own about Chautauqua, but this one really struck me. They said that there would be like hundreds of tents set up, and you'd come down and your families would all sleep in tents and vacation here at this part of the river, Chautauqua, whatever that was. And was that still a thing when you guys were little kids?
We didn't have to go to tent. Our grandparents had a cottage. So we would just go down there with our blankets and sit down, or you could go into the auditorium.
But was there a bunch of tents with people like vacationing and as well?
I don't remember. I remember the
There
row
weren't
of
tents like that.
cabins.
That was the name of our grandparents' cottage.
What was it?
Nap and eat.
Napanee.
And eat.
Nap and eat.
Nap and eat. And and they said after a few years they started building cabins as well, so you could not have to deal with snakes and all that and skeeters. Did you remember boating there and stuff? It just seemed like it was like a whole summer resort area.
Right.
But is that long gone now?
When we were growing up, Chautauqua was quite a vacation place. And then somewhere along the line, a church purchased it and it became very different.
Places would have areas like this to get away from their towns and have a place to just visit in the summer before television, before transportation was easy, probably before movies. I mean, before entertainment. They look for all these outdoor things to do, and Chautauqua sprang up as that. And this is photographs you're showing was probably it in its heyday. They would have outdoor amphitheater and famous speakers come in and talk. And
Eleanor Roosevelt.
I went to lectures in the auditorium.
There you go.
A lot of friends had cottages too, but one thing I didn't even realize, I wasn't aware of, it was completely segregated.
I mean, they did say that Eleanor Roosevelt did speak there. Mom, you just said that.
Right.
That's pretty interesting.
I remember Eleanor Roosevelt, my grandfather, very disgusted with FDR, Franklin Roosevelt. He'd call him old Rosie's done it again. He went to see Eleanor Roosevelt, and he was very, very impressed. He was one of the original women spokesmen, very, very intelligent, and didn't hide her intelligence.
That's my last slide. But that really went smoothly. I'm really very happy. And we all got on. Look at all of us. We're all on Zoom. And that was just great. So I appreciate your guys' efforts. I know that you had to spend some time to identify that stuff and to get your hands back on find those books. But I think that this went great. I think this was super.
Well, speaking of appreciating, we certainly appreciated you getting all these dumbbells on.
Right.
Nancy, happy birthday. And,
thank you. And thanks for all your work on this.
Yeah, that turned out really great. I love it.
Right.
So
bye.
Enjoy.
Nancy, give all the girls a hug for us.
Love you all.
Love you.
Bye. Thank you.
Love you all.